For better or worse, he was a giant in American politics. Henry Kissinger was never president of the United States, but he shaped world events just the same. Serving as U.S. Secretary of State for both Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford from 1973 to 1977, Kissinger formulated a policy of détente, seeking to dial back tensions with communist regimes. He was credited with achieving strides in U.S.-China relations and brokering peace with so-called shuttle diplomacy in the Middle East. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1973 for his part in trying to end the war in Vietnam, helping to negotiate a ceasefire.
When I shall receive the award, together with my old colleague in the search for peace in Vietnam, Mr. Lee Duc-Tho, I hope that that occasion will at last mark the end.
But it did not mark the end. The ceasefire didn't hold, and the war in Vietnam raged on. It was a premature decision from the Nobel Committee that prompted 2 members to resign in protest. His legacy is also tied to a series of coups d'etat across Latin America during the 1970s, in which the U.S. backed the overthrow of democratic governments and the assassinations of leftist leaders, conflicts in which tens of thousands of people were killed. Heinz Alfred Kissinger was born in Germany in 1923 into a Jewish family and fled to the U.S. when he was just 15 to escape persecution from the Nazis. He became a naturalized U.S. citizen when he was 20. Drafted into the Army in 1942, he saw battle during World War II. He would go on to attend Harvard University as an undergraduate and for his Ph.D., and he would eventually teach there. Focused on foreign policy, Kissinger worked on the presidential campaigns of Nelson Rockefeller before meeting Richard Nixon and becoming a part of his administration.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
When Nixon resigned as a result of the Watergate scandal, Kissinger would stay on in his role, serving under Gerald Ford. Speaking to France 24's Rob Parsons in 2009, Kissinger, who never lost his German accent, recalled the moment he learned that the Berlin Wall had come down.
Well, I thought in an historic sense it would happen. I was stunned, and I then watched for a day on television from Hawaii the outpouring of one of the few genuine moments where people came across both sides of the dividing line.
Once out of the White House, Kissinger would go on to advise many other U.S. presidents and have a part in shaping world events. George W. Bush sought his advice before going to war in Iraq. It was a war Kissinger at first advocated, but he would admit years later that a U.S. military victory there was not possible. Even into his 80s and 90s, Kissinger was sought out by the White House as a trusted voice. Almost every president since Nixon and Ford has sought his counsel on matters of foreign policy.